Welcome back everyone. Let's go ahead and do a comparison between the newly announced and released OnePlus 9 Pro that I already bought and kind of reviewed against the OnePlus 8 Pro that came out last year. Now, first of all, what I'll tell you was the 8 Pro, the 9 Pro, tremendous phones. I love the OnePlus series of devices. It did kind of seem like OnePlus is going in a weirder direction now, but I'll get into all that in a second with this whole entire review. But if you want to pick up either one of these devices, links will be down in the description. You can get them from there and you can help support the channel at the same time. Now, starting off with the front of both of these devices, you can see that they actually do kind of have the same similarities for the most part, but the OnePlus 9 Pro has a little bit of a smaller display, so keep that in mind. The OnePlus 8 Pro, on the other hand, had that 6.78-inch 1440p Fluid AMOLED display, and it was a very beautiful panel. I mean, this was probably one of my favorite panels last year. I think the S20 Ultra probably took the cake, or the Note 20 Ultra, but this device, for the stock software experience, it was definitely a beautiful device. But on top of that, you had that 120Hz refresh rate, which that in and of itself was another massive improvement that I loved seeing. We had the 90Hz before on the 7T Pro, but this device had the 120Hz, which I was really happy to see. And this display is still completely relevant and still looks so good. The OnePlus 9 Pro, on the other hand, like I mentioned, has a little bit of a smaller 6.7-inch 1440p Fluid 2 AMOLED display. I guess it's like a little bit different. To be honest, I don't see that big of a difference. I feel like this panel looks just as good as the 8 Pro, and I don't really think this panel is better than anything like a Galaxy S21 Ultra or anything like that, but this panel still looks fairly good. It's like a very good looking phone. You have a whole bunch of displays on the top left and very little bezel. It's a very good looking phone, and you do have a curved display on both devices. With the OnePlus 9, they switched away from that curved display, but the 9 Pro does have that, and I actually do like that a lot. It looks a lot better. You have USB Type-C ports on the bottom. You do have IP certification on both phones, so that's really good to see. If you get some water on either one of them, they should be relatively good for the most part. No microSD card slots or anything like that. Now, flipping them on the back, I will definitely say the OnePlus 9 Pro looks like the better back of the phone. You know, it looks better than the OnePlus 8 Pros, but the OnePlus 8 Pro actually had that frosted glass back, and that was something I really did love feeling with the iPhone 12 Pros, with the iPhone 11 Pros, and now with the Galaxy S21 Pluses and those ones. Those all have frosted glass backs, and they feel so nice. The 9 Pro seems like they're going back to the 7T series or the 7 series, and it's not a bad thing, but when you compare this phone to a more premium offering like a Galaxy S21 Plus or S21 Ultra, you're definitely feeling like you don't have that much better of a phone in terms of a feeling in the hand, let alone the performance and all that stuff. I wish they did have a frosted glass back here, but again, what are we going to do? There's nothing we can do about it. Now, they both still have wireless charging, and they both have reverse wireless charging. So in terms of the outside and the feeling in the hand and all of that, I think the 8 Pro is definitely going to be the better one here. Now, since we just talked about the cameras and we kind of glanced around them, let's go and hit on them. The OnePlus 8 Pro had that 48 megapixel wide-angle lens, an 8 megapixel telephoto lens, a 48 megapixel ultra-wide sensor, then a 5 megapixel color filter camera, whatever that one is. And then on the OnePlus 9 Pro, we have that 48 megapixel wide-angle lens, 8 megapixel telephoto lens, 50 megapixel ultra-wide sensor, then a 2 megapixel depth lens. And what I can tell you is, first of all, starting off with the OnePlus 8 Pro, that device's camera is so good. I mean, it's still a very good camera. Is it completely overshadowed by the OnePlus 9 Pro? I don't really think so. You know, I think the OnePlus 8 Pro still looks good. I think it looks fine and everything. The main advantage that you have with the OnePlus 9 Pro is that you actually do have, you know, that additional 8K capability, which I think is a really awesome thing for that device. I don't think it's like a groundbreaking achievement because we've had it on the Galaxy S20 since last year, but they are one of the only other manufacturers to bring up that 8K capability. As of right now, it seems kind of pointless to me too, but you are future-proofing yourself like a crazy amount. If you get this phone now, you're going to be set for a long time, and that's a really good thing. Unfortunately, with the front cameras, this is the one area that I'm pretty much not too happy about. So they're both still 16 megapixel lenses and only 1080p at 30 on both of those cameras. And I think that's a really sad thing. When you look at, you know, Samsung's offering, and this is not a cheap phone, by the way. This is like, I think around $1,000 I paid for this phone. That is a massive amount to pay for a device that still only taps out at 1080p on the front. And Androids are notorious for not having the best cameras, and Samsung is doing a really good job at kind of, you know, moving away from that. So is Google. But it seems like phones like, you know, OnePlus, they focus so much on the back camera, but the front camera is a thing that needs a lot of attention too. I'm somebody, I use the front camera a lot more than the back camera, and I wish that OnePlus, when they were making all those announcements of them working with Hasselblad and stuff, I knew they weren't going to improve the front camera. They haven't improved it for years now, and this is another example of them sticking with these same front camera lenses. While Samsung and iPhones and all these other manufacturers are able to let us do 4K at 60 on the front, OnePlus for both the 8 Pro and the 9 Pro still only allow us to do 1080p at 30. So in terms of the camera setup, yes, the OnePlus 9 is better, but I think the OnePlus 8 Pro is still extremely good for the most part. It's very close to the OnePlus 9 Pro. So in terms of that pretty much covers it up. Now really the only other thing I can think of with the OnePlus 9 Pro that's better is the software, potentially with the software updates. So the OnePlus 8 Pro, because it's a year older, it's probably going to not last as long as the OnePlus 9 Pro. So if you're trying to get a phone that's going to last you as long as possible, then by all means the OnePlus 9 Pro is the phone for you. It's going to be getting more software updates potentially, or it's going to be ending off at a further date than the OnePlus 8 Pro. So if I had to put my money on it, the OnePlus 9 Pro is obviously going to outlast the OnePlus 8 Pro. And as I mentioned before, that is pretty much the main difference I would see here. Other than that, the 9 Pro and the 8 Pro are very similar still. They have the same type of software. There really isn't one that feels way faster or way smoother than the other one. So that is another really big thing to keep in mind. Now, in terms of the battery size, weirdly enough, as far as I know, the OnePlus 9 Pro has a little bit of a smaller battery size than the OnePlus 8 Pro, which makes absolutely no sense to me. They went from a 4510 mAh battery on the OnePlus 8 Pro to a 4500 mAh battery on the OnePlus 9 Pro. Now, the other thing I don't understand is the fact that the OnePlus 9 Pro has the same size battery as the OnePlus 9. I think that's cool, but you're getting a little bit of a bigger phone with the 9 Pro and it's way more expensive. That phone deserves a bigger battery, and it's a 1440p display on that phone too. You need a bigger battery on that phone, and it's very weird that they didn't do that. So that's just another L in my opinion. I don't know what OnePlus is doing in that case. Hopefully they don't do that because it's very annoying, but they've already done it, so there's nothing we can do about it. So in terms of that, something I'm not really super happy about for OnePlus with their, battery size, but I guess the software is a good advantage of it. Now ending it off with the performance, the OnePlus 9 Pro and the OnePlus 8 Pro are very similar in terms of the performance segment in my opinion. The OnePlus 8 Pro has that Qualcomm Snapdragon 865 chipset with two different models, an 8GB of RAM option and that 12GB of RAM option, where the OnePlus 9 Pro has that Qualcomm Snapdragon 888 chipset with the same type of RAM options, 8GB of RAM and 12GB of RAM. And what I can tell you in terms of this specific RAM option is that the OnePlus 9 Pro is going to be the faster phone. It doesn't matter which way you look at it. It has the newer chipset, it has more RAM, it has the same amount of RAM actually, so RAM management is going to be roughly around the same, but the phone on the OnePlus 9 Pro is going to be giving you a much faster performance as far as I can tell. But here's the thing, the OnePlus 8 Pro, it isn't a slower phone right now. It is still a very fast phone, and relatively whatever you're going to do with it, it's going to be a very fast device. I've had this phone for a long time. I own the OnePlus 9 Pro now. If I wasn't comparing them side by side, I would not be able to tell that big of a difference. They would both be roughly around the same, and that is the biggest thing to keep in mind. If you're getting a phone like this, you want it to be, a very smooth performing phone. You want it to be very fast, and as long as you're not comparing them side by side, you're not going to notice that big of a difference. The 8 Pro, one of the biggest advantages that still kind of future-proof it is the RAM. If you get that top-tier RAM option, you are going to be set for a very long time. This phone is not going anywhere. You can even custom ROM this thing years from now and still feel like you have a very fast, up-to-date device. The OnePlus 9 Pro is also another very fast phone. That device is not going anywhere. It's going to be around for a very long time as well. And as I mentioned before, if you're getting one of these phones, you are going to be set. This device isn't going anywhere, and I think that is one of the bigger advantages for this device 100%. So in terms of performance, the OnePlus 9 Pro is the faster phone, but the OnePlus 8 Pro is right behind it. It's not too far off, and it's going to be lasting you for an insanely long amount of time as well. So in terms of performance, that pretty much covers it up. Now to kind of sum up this video and to answer the question, is the OnePlus 9 Pro worth it more so than the OnePlus 8 Pro? Should you buy a OnePlus 8 Pro over a 9 Pro? This is pretty much what I'll tell you. After using both these phones, I've used the 8 Pro for much longer, but it's not really that crazy of an upgrade in my opinion. And the fact that OnePlus increased the price tag so much on this device, it just makes me so perplexed. Why would they do that? That doesn't make any sense to me. There's a very little difference between an 8 Pro and a 9 Pro. However, if you're coming from something like a 7T Pro or a 7 Pro or something like that, or let's say you have all the money in the world to spend, then obviously pick up the OnePlus 9 Pro. that is a no-brainer in my opinion, that has a lot more capability. It's going to be lasting you for quite a bit of time, and it's really just getting started with software. It's going to be lasting you for a good amount of time, and it's a faster phone. Maybe the screen looks a little bit better. You're getting the same IP certification, USB-C on the bottom, which is great. You like that frosted glass back, which is very sad. I like that frosted back. Unfortunately, they took it back for the standard glass back. You're getting wireless charging, reverse wireless charging on both. A little bit of a smaller battery on the OnePlus 9 Pro, but it shouldn't really make that big of a difference. It's just kind of annoying that they even went down, but it has the same battery size as the OnePlus 9. So I don't understand what they're trying to do there. It's a smaller phone, so I don't know how it has the same size battery. Performance is going to be better on the OnePlus 9 Pro, but it's not going to be a crazy amount. The OnePlus 8 Pro is still a very fast phone. And the only other thing I can think of is that the OnePlus 9 Pro is going to be lasting longer than the OnePlus 8 Pro. So if you're buying either one now, the OnePlus 9 Pro is going to be the phone that's going to last you longer than the OnePlus 8 Pro. But I still think the OnePlus 8 Pro is a no-brainer. It's a solid phone and it has so much capability that I would honestly recommend that phone over the OnePlus 9 Pro just based off the price tag. I feel like that's a better value per dollar than the OnePlus 9 Pro. But it is what it is. There's nothing we can do. But that's pretty much my opinion on both of these. If you guys have any other questions or anything like that, let me know in the comment section below. Hit the like button, that would mean so much, but definitely hit that subscribe button. Every single subscriber that we get really does count. So it means so much if you guys get hit that. Also check out the other links down in the description as well. My Twitter, my Instagram, my other channels. More importantly, everything else, I love every single one of you guys. Hopefully I'll catch you guys in the next video. Peace out till then.